Okay, no pun intended. We got a fire episode today.
Oh, too soon.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Okay, sorry.
Too soon. Too soon.
I take it back. Wow.
Wild. So we recorded an episode on Wednesday and we were just kind of giving updates on what information we had at that point. And at that time, I was very adamant that Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom should resign.
At that time?
Yes.
Oh, well, I said it too.
Okay. What, you want credit for saying it too?
No, but you guys all claim I'm the woke guy, but I said Bass should resign.
Well, California is going to be redder than Oklahoma.
I know. That's going to be
in 3 months.
Texas in no time.
I think that was knowing very little information about how they would react to the fires. My reaction was purely based on the lack of preparation.
Right.
And
for context, like I would say Wednesday was probably like 20% of the full picture that we have today.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's still ongoing. There's apparently really bad winds tomorrow.
And Tuesday and Wednesday.
Right. So, Tuesday, Wednesday. So just to like, for the listener's sake, if you're not here, Wednesday's episode was probably 20%.
Wednesday night in LA, specifically West Hollywood.
Yeah.
Shit flew off the rails.
Yeah. Which is all of us.
Yes.
All of our area.
Yes. And Zach's here. He likes to come when there's terror in the streets.
Especially when there's leftist failings.
Yes. It's a good time to do a victory lap.
Yeah.
And, we all live in the neighborhood and there's a lot to cover, but we're very fortunate. Yeah. That nothing happened to any of our homes and that everyone is safe. A lot of people, a lot of friends of ours are completely fucked.
Yes.
Homes, schools, communities, grocery stores, everything they've worked their entire life for is completely gone.
I also didn't realize I knew people that lived in Altadena.
I got a lot of messages of people that I now didn't, I knew they lived out in that way.
Right.
I didn't know they lived in that zone. So that was also very heartbreaking. And I think, we experienced, a very, call it 1% of the fear living in West Hollywood for just a few hours.
Right.
And so, just to recap that, Wednesday at like 5:45, 6 o'clock, I'm sitting in my office, and my office, for the listeners, overlooks all of Hollywood Hills, east, west, all parts of it, from like basically east of Griffith Park to, west of, near UCLA. Yep. And then I also see Palisades and Santa Monica and the beach and all that. And so I'd been seeing the fires, the smoke from Altadena the whole last couple of days. And then I saw obviously everything happening at the Palisades. My wife calls me at 6 p.m. My family had already gone down to Orange County, living in where our in-laws live. And they were staying with them just because the smoke was so bad. And she's like, look outside the window. And I'm like, why? She's like, look. I go, oh my God.
Because at that point, the Palisades are really far from us.
Yes.
Altadena is really far. Yeah. There was an air quality concern, I would say.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of people started leaving, because it was giving. I went for like a 15-minute walk.
Yeah.
And I was nauseous, head hurt. And I was like, fuck, this is bad. I went to the imagine what a kid feels.
Yeah. I went to the gym on Wednesday and everybody was like out of breath and like, I can't do this. Think air quality, right? Like it's such a simple thing, how bad it was.
So I actually met up with a mutual close friend of all three of ours yesterday who lost his home. And I was doing my best to just be positive, but I know from his perspective, he's devastated. Right. It was crazy. Like he's telling me things and I'm just like, I was just like, hey man, like, I don't want to out his business, so I don't want to tell who it is, but I was just so heartbroken by his commentary and on what he experienced in the last week.
Was he there? Like, was he living there?
he was living there and he left, evacuated, and everything's gone.
And I think the thing that like the thing that I think that can help people relate, because people who lost everything, when they're speaking on television, they're so emotional. It's so hard for them to even, I don't even know why they're getting interviewed. It's like, it's so heartbreaking.
Right.
But I got the phone call from my wife, and she had already packed like some valuables, and she's like, I'm going to take like some important things to her. She calls me and she's like, go home and pack your valuables. And I go, I don't have any.
Right.
I was like, what do you want me to pack?
Right.
I was like,
I realized that too, by the way.
So
not a lot of valuables.
Yeah. And so
I had the same conversation with Amanda.
And so I go to Haley, like, what did you pack?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, my jewelry, this, that, couple nice things. And I go, and what else? And she's like, well, all the Patrick Mahomes jerseys, some soccer jerseys. I was like, yeah, that is the most valuable thing to me, is that my kids' jerseys are intact.
Yeah.
So I run home and she's like, pack a suitcase of clothes, get some stuff out.
Yeah.
And then she was like, get the pictures. And she's like, we have a lot of pictures, wedding pictures, kids' schoolwork that we saved.
Yeah.
She's like, go get all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm running up and down my stairs, fucking packing my suitcase, my car worth of shit.
But the pictures are on the cloud.
Yes, but like, it's still like sentimental to have the pictures.
So you booked it out of here, had to fly up. Was there traffic?
So that's what I was worried at. So when I saw it at 5:45, 6, I ran out of this office. Everyone's like, what the fuck? And I text everyone like, I got to go home.
I just want to make sure we're being clear. Maybe I'm being annoying here, but what changed was a fire started at Runyon Canyon, which is right by where we all live.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it went from like, maybe air quality being an issue to like immediate danger.
Yes. And what happened was, and everyone in that neighborhood, it's a densely populated area. There's a lot of people live there. So I bolt home. By the time I get to a block from where I live, I turn the corner and I just see massive flames. So I'm like, oh shit, it's real. I thought it was like at the top of the hill. That's what I called my wife. I was like, okay, what do you want? I'm out. Like, I'm not staying here. So I'm like loading up the car with this, that, like kids' schoolwork and kids' paintings, whatever, just like kid stuff.
Yeah.
Get in the car, and she's just like, take as much clothes as you can in like one big suitcase. So I literally, I was like, I packed like 4 t-shirts. I picked a 5'4" jacket out, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah. Did you save your Celine USC color jacket?
I did the next day. Well, I had to come back. I had to come back.
I was curious.
The next day I came back and I took the Celine jacket. And so because she was like, take clothes that you know you need. So I took like 4 t-shirts, couple underwears, couple running shorts, my running shoes, and a jacket. And I packed my suitcase and I started driving. And the fire at that point was chaos. Sunset Boulevard, absolute fucking chaos. Yeah. People were stopped taking fucking videos and pictures, causing even more traffic. Yeah. And then I see people in scooters driving and taking pictures. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, it felt so crazy.
So I start going, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go south. I had to go to Orange County, so I had to go south. I'm taking all the side streets that I know that like never have traffic. Yeah. Every street is fucking packed. Yeah. And I have young staff. They all moved to work here and they're like, what the fuck do I do? I'm like, you all live in like high rises. Wait, you see the traffic. If it mellows out, go. I do not think it's even safe being out there right now. Cause even the way people are driving, traffic, I mean, the power was out also in West Hollywood.
Yeah, a lot of traffic.
So driving was nuts. Yeah. And so then I finally get to the freeway and then I get home. And there was like a sense of relief. Okay, let's see what happens. But like, we rent. I don't own a home. Right. And so my feeling towards the home, it would be fucking devastating. Yeah. But like, just to be fair, like I didn't work my whole life to own this home. Yeah. And I probably had a different experience than people that own homes. Yeah. That forget the people that lost everything, which is just horrific. Yeah. But even people that own a home and got evacuated versus like our own friends in our chat who own a home, his emotions were way higher than mine, who I rent. And so like, I don't own, like, I don't even have anything valuable. Right. Like I'm packing up my most valuable things. It was my kids' jerseys.
I realized phone and a laptop and everything else. I don't mind if insurance covers.
Yeah. And I think maybe women, they have like clothes that matter to them and jewelry and things like that. I literally have nothing.
Yeah. Same. It was a really interesting experience.
It was also kind of bleak. That like you don't have any.
I didn't know if I was sad or like relieved. I wasn't sure.
I felt the same thing. I was like, what do you want? Like 10 James Purse t-shirts?
Right.
And I'm good. And I have a Ryan Braun autographed All-Star bat. That's all I cared about.
Did you take? Oh no, you didn't leave.
No, I didn't leave, but I'm saying those are the things that I cared about.
I'll tell you what, if you're a real fitness person by if you grab your running shoes in an emergency or not.
Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah. Okay. So,
but I think the real tragedy of the week to me came with the lack of preparation for the city of Los Angeles. Right. And I would broadly say if LA is this unprepared, the rest of the fucking state is unprepared.
Or the rest of the country.
I don't know about the rest of the country.
I mean, New York was unprepared when they had the winter storm.
But I'm talking about, that's another liberal city. I agree. I think all the liberal cities are unprepared.
Miami's unprepared.
For what?
I mean, have you seen the hurricanes there?
Well, look, let's not debate yet. Let's stay on topic.
Stop blue red. Stop blue red. Everyone's unprepared.
Look, this is what we know now. LA was unprepared. Let's
100%.
just stick with that.
Yeah. LA was unprepared. And I think the thing that drives me the most insane is one, there was a lot of secondary impact that we are seeing from policies from previous years that impacted a lot of Angelenos this week. And I think, the one that drives me the most crazy is finding out that how many of the fires were arson.
Yeah. And I don't think we even know yet, right? I mean, they might all be.
We don't know. And
no, I mean,
and I would assume the majority would.
How did the Palisades fire start? Was there a power line that fell?
No, I'm saying I believe the arson's theory.
I think it's they're going to look for every other reason besides arson because they need to blame somebody.
You know what's already annoying me so much is they're really, really trying to push climate change.
Nobody believes that.
And like, I know
0% of people on Earth.
Like the lefties that already are super passionate about climate change are already starting to like forget, like selective memory that like, climate change, no rain, high winds.
What about record rains 9 months ago?
It's just, but you can tell that's the easy, like wool over the eyes.
Yeah. But arson is the reason for the fire.
I know, but I'm just saying you can see it happening. I'm telling you in 2 weeks, it's going to be posts about climate change and why it's, big oil's fault.
I don't think so.
I don't think anyone's going to believe that.
I'm not saying it'll win. I'm saying that it will be the heavily attempted.
I think it's narrative. Very like, I have a friend who, is in Wyoming and he dropped a cigarette in the woods and he's like, I caused a blaze. That's how easy it is to start.
Yeah.
I think the difference here though is it seems purposeful. Like it seems like there's people were out to start these fires.
Especially on the windiest day of the year.
Accidental.
Yeah, and now we've seen video of, we don't know what all of them started, but like Dee said, there wasn't a down power line. So it's all fishy, but now there's actually video and stuff coming out of people running around with lighters and flamethrowers and trying to start.
Like the guy in the valley.
So I guess if you want to tinfoil hat it.
What's the tinfoil hat when there's no power line that fell? Which is usually how these things happen.
So no, my point is basically every part of the city was burning.
Right.
Altadena, Pasadena, Palisades, they're like, 60, 70 miles apart?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one in Hollywood was out of nowhere and so fast.
That's arson.
And then Sylmar.
And then the Valley, North Hollywood, there was one.
Woodley.
These were all areas that it was like too far from embers from one another to be like cross-pollinating. And
that's true.
It just seemed like the windiest day of the year, somehow there happened to be a fire. And then all of a sudden there's all of these fires in all these disparate parts of LA all at once.
And you already see the articles coming about, DWP was at fault. What? Where? Show me the fallen power line that started it. No one, that's not been reported.
But it's not, so to me, if you're blaming DWP for, let's just say like the water problems, that's a governor mayor problem, not a DWP problem. I just don't understand. I mean, look here, we can, I think this is the frustration from all of us is there is so clearly such terrible failures of leadership.
And I think my point was, when you think about arson, the types of people that commit arson are criminals.
Yeah.
Our lax policy of prosecuting people allowed for this behavior, and we got the ultimate karma from it.
Yeah.
Which is we ruined.
Or they're crazy and homeless, which is like
that's also a policy, right?
We've increasingly accepted that and like allowed these people to sort of roam the streets without any sort of recourse.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching from my office a homeless encampment getting fucking blown out. We know these people have stoves. They're cooking.
I see one a month from my window, full blaze homeless tents.
Yeah, and there's always like trash cans on fire and like weird random fires in Hollywood and stuff. Like, I think that's not to be underestimated. But I do think the Altadena one, there actually is. It could have been DWP. There was like arcing under a power line in Altadena, and there's like a lot of people who saw that happen. But there's 7 other fires at the same time. Where that wasn't.
Yeah,
there was no evidence of that. Yeah,
I could have accepted. I was even willing to accept the Palisades one was actually something else. And then when you were like, there's no power lines near there. Yeah. Then like, okay, so then.
Have you seen the video? There's like a very grainy video where it looks like somebody was there. And then today that came out, there's a bunch of hikers who were there right as it started. Yeah. And it seemed like there was a bunch of people in and around that area at the very least. Yeah, the Palisades one, yeah.
And so like.
I don't think it takes much when you have 80 to 100 mile per hour winds.
But you have to light something.
Yeah, someone has to light something.
Did you see our fire department like lineup? Like the heads of the... Just curious.
There was that one lady...
I'm not saying they're not great firefighters. I'm just saying it seems like maybe the priorities are...
Well, there was that one lady who said, like, if your husband is in a fire, I'm not carrying him out because he shouldn't have been there in the first place. Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah. And another one said that when you're in trouble and the fire department shows up, you want someone that looks like you to be showing up to take care of you.
Yeah.
I don't.
Which I've never heard that.
I want a burly big guy.
Yeah, I want whoever's the best at saving me.
If I need to be carried out, I want someone big.
But I think like the part of LA that just burnt to the ground is like probably the
2 parts of LA.
Okay, so let's say Palisades is in Malibu. Probably like one of the highest concentrations of Democrat even donors and like participators. Yeah. Like I think that there's a real chance this changes. I know we said it, but seriously, the voting, how LA looks.
You know, it's really interesting. And this, I think I've shared this on this podcast. The day of 9/11, I was a senior in college and I walked, I think it was like the first week of school, second week of school, and walked into my entrepreneurship program at USC. And at that point, it just had happened. They hadn't canceled school classes yet. And that day, Paul Orfila, who's very connected to USC, he started Kinko's. He started speaking. And he messaged it in a way that was like, at first I got really angry about it, but then, you know, he was very clever about it. He basically said, what's the opportunity here? We're in a feasibility studies class. What's the opportunity? And he wasn't talking about from a financial standpoint. Right. It was more of like, can we change the region? Is this an opportunity to bring peace to the region? You know, thinking about it in a way that was more like pragmatic of like, let's use this devastation as an opportunity to correct course. Yeah. And when I look at what happened this past week, as horrific as it was, and we don't know what the total damage will be because the fires are still going. Yeah. I want to believe that this is an opportunity to course correct the city. Yeah. That a lot of people felt like was falling apart. Yeah. And I strongly believe in there's a petition for Karen Bass to resign. It's going to get the signatures. So they'll hopefully, you know, potentially get her recalled. Hopefully Gavin Newsom also gets recalled. And I think I'm, you know, optimistic out of this. There's going to be a tremendous amount of pain. Yeah. Like when you think about how do you rebuild a city? Think about it in modern times. Right. To build a city in probably one of the most, you know, desired places to live on Earth between Palisades and Malibu.
Yeah.
Then you take Altadena, which is like a lot of working class, middle class families. These people worked their whole life to own a home here. We've never done any mass construction in California recently.
Yeah.
How the fuck are we going to build these houses?
Not only that, but what happens with the whole like insurance? Like there's a lot of issues with insurance.
The insurance companies are going to go bankrupt because
Weren't they already cutting fire insurance?
They might be fine because they don't insure anyone.
Well, they cut it like the last 2 weeks, but
then the state of California backstopped all the ones that got cut.
But up to 3 million. These Palisades homes are 15 million bucks.
But even I think the exposure from the state of California is still like $6 or $7 billion.
Yeah. No, I think the exposure is insane. And I don't know, other than a federal bailout, how everyone's like cities rebuilt.
Oh, there will, of course, there will be a federal bailout.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have to.
They're talking like, I mean, I know they say 52 billion in.
I heard 150 billion just now.
It's going to be triple four times.
The thing about it is and I think a lot of people have discussed this. One of the reasons why the insurance companies left California and a lot of these high risk areas is because they started putting caps on
the premiums.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that obviously turns out to be a bad move because the right probably thing to do was if people want to pay the premium to live in this area, it's the same reason. We all live in California. We pay high taxes. We prefer to live here. So we're okay with that.
Right.
California got in the way of the free market.
Yeah.
And that actually it's going to hurt the city way more than the price cap benefit would have been.
Yeah.
And that backward thinking, and this is the reality. Karen Bass, if you look at her historically, in the 70s, she was a Marxist. She followed supporter of Castro. Like she even mentioned in one of her speeches in the last 24 hours about like rebuilding affordable housing.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
This isn't the time to be we're not putting fucking apartments in these areas to feed until our regular families get back into these communities.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I agree. I'm not a supporter of Karen Bass.
And I think like you have to remember, like when people said, like, I think I mentioned this after I got back from Miami in December, that this guy I met who's a VC, he's like, I'm like, oh, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Russia. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, San Francisco. I'm living in a communist city. Yeah. And I think that's how people felt. And that's why you saw people be very vocal about political change, is because like these people and they're not qualified. Like Rick Caruso ran for mayor of this city and he lost. Because of at one point in his life, he was Republican and they literally voted for Karen Bass because they thought abortion was going to be banned in LA.
No, I think, no. I think
yes, was the fear though.
No, Caruso lost because the majority of LA is not wealthy. And the majority of LA just got put a message that this is the rich guy that's coming in. But even though we all supported Caruso, I've talked about in the pod, they just didn't want the rich guy to win. That's it.
There's also a race and gender thing too, I think, but it ties into like economics as well.
They didn't want the rich guy to win.
Yeah.
Because most of LA is not rich.
I will say too, like a lot of these rich.
We know so many people that supported Bass.
A lot of rich LA people are her.
I don't know many.
Like donors
you know rich people that have supported Bass.
Of course, rich people are different. I'm talking about regular people.
I know regular people that supported Bass that we can. I'm not going to out them, but they voted for her.
Yeah, I didn't, so I have no idea.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Vote for her, so I don't know.
My point that I think will be a change is like, I think a lot of the people in this is a crazy, I know I'm making an assumption, but Malibu Palisades probably supported Bass. And donated to Bass. And I feel like a lot of these
for sure.
things are like luxury beliefs, you know, like all of this, not so much practical or logical running of a city, but like ideology of how you could run a city.
And the reality is we were just looking this up before the pod. California tax revenue is north of $200 billion. Do you want a politician running that, or do you want a fucking business person running that? $200 billion.
How about a Marxist?
Do you know how many companies do more than $200 billion? It's probably Apple, Microsoft, Walmart, and Amazon, ExxonMobil.
But do you realize that maybe
mags, maybe not all the mags. It might be 6 mags.
Do you realize if you could choose from a list of who to run that much money, a Marxist is the worst.
It's the worst.
You'd rather have a 12-year-old.
Yeah,
because there's like a destructive quality.
Zach, you probably would know this. Did the DWP woman, is she really making $750,000?
Yeah, she is.
that's public.
Who? The leader, the head of the
DWP.
Yeah.
So
She can't turn on a nozzle?
There was like an environmental thing about they were trying to save some fish, so they had to like remove
smelt,
some.
right?
There's
No one
some
knows what
smelt
smelt
and some
is.
salmon, but they had
And
to.
that's real?
Yeah, it's 100% real. They had to empty the reservoirs and remove some dams that would have been like contributed really a lot to this.
And this is why like career politicians don't work anymore. It's the stakes have gotten so high. 30 years ago, I don't know what the tax revenue of California, but
A lot less.
A lot less.
Yeah.
You're talking $200 billion. Right. Do you know how many people on earth are qualified to budget out $200 billion?
Yeah.
Not many.
3.
Yeah. It's like 3 Indians in Silicon Valley.
Literally. I think this is enough. Because what we also didn't cover was that after the fires, so the fires, which are still going, from Wednesday were devastating enough. Like, let's take it up to Wednesday where we last recorded. Then the Hollywood one. Then all of a sudden, what was all over the news and really more on social media is there were coordinated efforts of tens or even hundreds of people going into all of these neighborhoods where people had evacuated and looting and stealing all their shit and carrying out their flat screens and carrying out all their belongings. And that's just another level of, that is the result of all of this easy on crime policy and all of these things. And probably some of the illegal immigration and all this stuff. That's a whole nother level of poor leadership that impacted that we didn't even, I was worried you were going to come back. I was worried a couple of friends were going to come back whose houses were okay, but then they'd just be empty.
Yeah. So like I as soon as I knew the fire was out in Runyon, which happened very quickly, I came home.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck this. I'm going to sleep in my house. I know if I sleep, what? Yeah. I'm not get after all this, I'm not getting fucking robbed.
Right.
It's ridiculous. And so I came back home. I just slept in my house. And I knew if my car is there, my lights are on, no one's going to fucking rob me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so I stayed at home. And I think so many people, like, there's so many robberies happening in the city right now.
Yeah.
And the Palisades, in Hollywood Hills.
I drive through a really nice neighborhood to get here, cut through whatever. And literally I was driving down the street and like a BMW or whatever, just glass completely smashed out. They had obviously just gotten robbed. Didn't even know it yet. Like wasn't even covered. Like I think right now it's just madness.
Yeah, it's
also coordinated. It's more than likely coordinated. Yeah. Like it's not just a crime of opportunity. It's not like a bunch of people are seeing this and all of a sudden reacting. It's like these organized groups that are like very much aware of what's happening. There's a lot of people coming in from out of state and allegedly out of country too, to like take advantage of all of this.
Yeah. And I think like the big challenge, I think, and this is why you want even more competent people in a time like this. There's a lot of money that's about to be spent by private companies, federal government, state government, local government. We saw what happened during COVID, how much funds was wasted.
Yeah.
Right. All the funds went to luxury brands. That's where all the funds went. It didn't actually help society. Yeah. And I think
explain that.
Basically, everyone pillaged.
The stimmy went to luxury brands. Yes.
Not even the stimmy. People were scamming the money that was given to like keep businesses open. Yeah, they were opening up fake EINs and
and they went and bought nice cars. And they went and bought Gucci.
I think the federal government will probably do $50 to $100 billion in stimmy to LA.
Yeah, and that money.
No, hold on. How much of that will be fraud? 10, 20 billion?
It's going to be more than zero, but it's going to be hard to tell.
Here's what here actually don't.
I don't know, but it's a lot.
This is where I think the fraud will happen in overcharging the rebuild of LA. Yep. That is where the fraud will happen. The fraud will not happen. It's not going to be like PPP because you're going to have to prove that your home is gone, right? Like there's going to be an adjuster that comes to your home.
I don't think that the scale is too big.
No.
You could just, what people were doing during COVID, we saw it, the hotel across the freaking street of our office.
But COVID was very different because physically
they just set an address and say, I live here. I know. And they pay off the postal guy.
You know when the earthquake happened in Northridge, FEMA sent people to every fucking house in Northridge, every single house, because to inspect them. Just because,
no, but for safety.
Yes, they will. This is hundreds of billions of dollars. They will do that.
The homes are gone.
No, but they're physically going to there's some homes that survived, right? And they may have a damage, right? So they have claims to money too. Like if your garage burnt, you need money. You're entitled to money.
I think there's $10 billion of fraud.
Yeah, sure. Whatever. Yeah.
There's definitely going to be overcharging.
Think about how many people are going to be chomping at the bit of fraud.
But I think it's going to be overcharging. That's where I think the leakage will be.
Yeah.
I don't think you're just going to be able to say, oh, my home's gone. Don't inspect it.
What you can say is like, oh, I got robbed. Like I evacuated. I got robbed.
Yes.
Where's
that's
my...
100
Oh, I have $5 million of art.
Yeah, but you have to prove that.
I will say, to Anand's point, I just remembered that over the weekend, I overheard strangers talking about like how, you can call and sign up. Now, I don't know how lenient they're going to be with this, but people are already starting to call and sign up for FEMA and say like, oh, I had to evacuate or I couldn't go into the office. And so the damages of the missed work and my employees couldn't, and I had to stay at this hotel because I didn't have, even people who weren't losing their houses, people were already starting to get savvy to it. So I don't think it's COVID level, but
of course it will be.
That is another
There's
area
no doubt
where people are
anytime there's like a disaster, there's a ton of like Hurricane Katrina was the same thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are just going to take advantage of this disaster.
I think that's the case. And I think
I'm more worried about all the people that just saw that this works.
Yeah.
Like, number one, just crazy people seeing on Tuesday and Wednesday how quick their little fire is going to spread.
Yeah.
And even people seeing that, like, okay, you can light a neighborhood up, everyone leaves, you rob all their houses. Like, it just feels like we just exposed.
You know what's interesting to me though? I think it's like I think this is again where it like points to why private enterprise is better for these things. Yeah. Because if you look at the insurance companies, they stopped a lot of these policies 2 weeks ago, because they knew that there was like a really high risk event coming up. Even if you didn't think that there was going to be arson, they knew that there was like Santa Ana winds coming 100 miles per hour. Yeah. They're like, we don't want to hold these policies through this. And so like the insurance companies know something that the government and the average public don't. And it's like, we have to sort of like the onus on figuring this stuff out moving forward should not just be left in the hands of the government, but we should be actually paying companies to sort of like be more proactive about warning us about these things.
That's what's crazy.
The thing about it is, what was so shocking was I rarely watch the local news. The week before, I was just watched to see the weather or whatever, and they said very bad winds, high chance of fire. We all knew.
It was all over Twitter. The windstorm. Remember, we sent tweets in our chats that the windstorm was coming.
Yeah, everyone knew, and except for
Karen Bass in Ghana.
Because
she was in Ghana.
Why does the mayor of LA need to go to Ghana?
We already talked about this on the last pod.
She just went for the inauguration of like the first female president or something.
She's not.
She didn't have a lot on her plate. She had some empty time.
Yeah.
No, but the point on the last pod we talked about was that the mayor of LA is not the vice president, is not a diplomat. You handle LA. You don't need to go to Ghana.
I feel like all
you should be visiting Sherman Oaks.
And taxpayers paid for the trip to Ghana too, which is crazy.
Security.
Yeah.
I feel like all these virtue signaling motherfuckers want to be famous so bad.
Yeah.
Like they just want to be like special.
Or they just want to seem more important than they actually are. Like you should be happy about being the mayor of LA. You don't need to be like an international diplomacy ambassador.
They all want to be like so like high and mighty. It's so weird.
And I think like the thing that like,
well, they take advantage, right? So she's the mayor of LA, mayor of one of the probably bigger economies in the world.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, Ghana wants me.
Right, but LA sucks right now, even pre-fire.
Yeah.
The fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
But you want to go there because they're like, oh, the mayor of Los Angeles.
I'm telling you,
like being a celebrity above actually doing the work.
And I'm going to bring it back to the presidential election. You mentioned it, I think the week before the election or the episode before the election, you said, in your eyes, like democracy was up on the ballot because if Trump doesn't win, it feels like something's off.
Right.
And I think given that the inauguration is a week away, given the tragedy that's happened in Los Angeles, I'm very optimistic that there's going to be a drastic change in the way voters think about their local and state policies. And the biggest thing that I think that's going to change goes back to the commercial that I think won Trump, which is, they care about they.
Yeah.
I care about you.
Yeah.
And right now there's thousands of families that are fucked.
Right.
Will the city of LA step up and do anything for them? Or do we all have to give to 7,000 fucking GoFundMes because they all know the city and state and our government will fail them?
Yeah.
That is why they're raising money.
And for the record, this is one thing that I also feel is important to clear up is that no matter what you see on the news or whatever, it's not just rich people.
No, it's not at all. Forget just Altadena and Pasadena, Altadena area, which is a middle class. And the problem, what gets so twisted is that homes in Altadena cost $1 million. They cost $2 million.
Yeah.
But in Los Angeles, a middle class family owns $1 million house. Yeah. That's the reality.
Yeah.
It's not like
and
these
they've
people
owned
rich.
it for like 30 years.
Yeah, and they own $1 million home.
Yeah,
they're not millionaires. They're in the traditional sense. Their net worth, sure. But like they're not cash rich.
There's also like schools and churches and things that
businesses. Yeah.
And then you even take Palisades. Everyone just shows the $30 million house or the Succession house in Palisades.
Exactly.
There are regular houses in Palisades where people
there's a trailer park that burned to the ground.
Yeah.
In Malibu. There's a ton of trailer parks in Malibu. Yeah.
Yeah. And like people who moved to Palisades 30 years ago and bought a house for $400,000 and, raised their kids and their grandkids. And I think like the devastation is so bad for like generational LA families. I think there's a lot of transient people that come to LA that can pick up and leave. Mm-hmm. But there's people that have been here their whole life. They raise their kids, their grandkids, and they don't have anything else but their home. And you saw the behavior with people standing with hoses and people who died protecting their home. Because I mean, I was just thinking about if our dad was alive, he probably wouldn't have left. Yeah. He probably would have stayed.
Yeah.
Fuck this. I came here, worked my ass off. I'm not letting my house burn.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I think that was the mentality for a lot of people. And it's like, it's so hard if that had happened to me and I was like much older and this is my first and like family home. Yeah. How do you like in your head, like reconcile some sort of normalcy going forward?
Right.
It's fucking hard.
Yeah.
And we know you can't even like fix a pothole in this city. Yeah. Right. What do you think it's going to take to rebuild a goddamn community?
You know what's...
And also think of the nightmare of like, do we even have the bandwidth to, or like whatever the regulations are, or I would imagine
they're going to have to be all rolled back because it takes 5 years to build anything in Malibu, basically. Right. In the way that it currently... The thing that I think about is like, local elections always used to be a really big joke. Like nobody shows out for them. Yeah. No, it's like they're super undervoted for. Like
until Soros, man. Soros figured it out.
Yeah, Soros did figure it out. But I think that you're going to see like a massive multiplication of people coming out for the next mayoral election in Los Angeles, at least. Yeah. Because like people understand now, like if you have a really bad mayor, it can really fuck things up. Yeah. And a lot of people didn't used to care about the mayor race in LA or in any large city, really.
I just hope people remember and like keep the same energy. Cause another story I saw was like, oh, Kim Kardashian and Kevin Hart went above their allotted water usage and paid $200,000 and it's celebrities and they're greedy. Like that's not what happened. No. They didn't use up all the water and that's what happened. Like, I just hope that, number one, I hope that obviously that petition will pass and hopefully there's some like stepping down or things like that happening. But I just hope people remember, because I'm telling you, and I know we all felt this way, the last, handful of years where crime was up and all this stuff was getting worse and these type of candidates were still winning. It just felt like we were in crazy land. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
You know why? But I'm going to shoot it straight. The best voters weren't affected by the fires.
Well,
I think there was a lot of them in Palisades and Malibu.
Yeah, I think Palisades and Malibu were a lot of virtue-y rich people. That not all. Let's actually edit that. I think Palisades and Malibu were a lot of people who supported Bass on
who just vote the party line, who are just like Democrat through and through. Yeah.
And I got to say, not all of them. In no way am I generalizing, but also vote the party line, weren't affected by the crime and stuff. And just like, no, this is great.
Yeah, because there's never a ton of crime in Palisades and Malibu.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah.
I know people who are not affected at all still to this day by any crime or any don't even know an uptick is happening. And so if someone says, hey, we're looking out for minorities and we're looking out for whatever, they say, oh yeah, that's my person. I want LA to be a shiny, amazing rainbow city. And you don't even realize what's happening.
I agree. And I think, you know, one of the things that I've been thinking about was all of these families who have lost everything. I was trying to think about like, how do you rebuild, right? Like your life, not just your home, right? A lot of people, their schools are gone, or their kid's school is in the neighborhood and they want this continue to live there, and they want to rent a home. They want to figure things out. And I was like, and I know everyone wants to help, right? Like, I think generally speaking, LA has been very like positive on like trying to figure out how to help people. The donation centers are like overrun with donations. And, you know, I wrote a small message to our company and I was like, I think if you're an individual, the effort of helping, I would actually like zero in on a family or a couple people, you know, or friends of people, you know, that were actually impacted, and just help them directly. Yeah. I get nervous about donating to like some random foundation where I do not know where that money goes. Yeah. Like if you want to donate to LA Firefighters Foundation, great. We know where that money goes. But I think the right move is we have to help these individual people and zero in and be like, what do you need? Do you need toys for your kids? You need food? Do you need a place to sleep? What do you need? Because like the one discrepancy that is happening is that people that live in the Palisades in Malibu obviously generally have means, and they have escaped to Santa Barbara and Palm Springs and all parts of the country. Whereas like in Pasadena, the fucking center is overrun, but there's no room. Yeah. There's too many people. And so they're looking for food and shelter and things like that. So I think like individuals, I think have like, I do believe in LA have a responsibility to kind of help your community and zero in on a few people, because I think a little bit goes such a long way here.
So I'm going to play the boogeyman on this whole, like helping. Everyone's in LA, I feel like, is overwhelmingly trying to donate clothes, whatever. It's 2 weeks and everyone forgets.
That's why I said you pick a family. I literally think you have to pick. Cause like, I mean, I've dealt with, you know, our trauma with our son, and initially everyone's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then I don't blame anyone. You have to go back to your lives. Yeah, of course. But that's nothing wrong with that.
And that's going to happen here. In 2 weeks, no one's going to care.
No,
but to Dee's point, I do think that is why
you don't have a home. It's very different. No home, no place to live.
And your community, if you like live in those communities, and
I'm telling you, no one's going to give a fuck in 2 weeks.
But it's like you can't even, maybe like the rest of the country. But if you live in Malibu or Palisades, you can't not give a fuck because there's nothing there.
No, I know they're all coming together right now. Yeah, I'm telling you, 2 weeks, it's over.
Yeah, but you're more pessimistic. We'll be optimistic. We'll take the I don't think it's good to be a pessimist.
I also think it's a little bit different when entire like communities get demolished. So like Dee's saying, like your local store that you go to, your favorite restaurant, your church, your school, your house, everyone else's house that you know, like I don't think, to your point on it, there won't be a nationwide helping happening past 2 weeks.
I'm calling on LA.
But I think, like the same as like, I don't know, maybe after like Boston, like, after the marathon. Do you think
in your Slack in 2 weeks, everyone's going to talk about this?
So I think...
No chance.
I will talk about it. So yes,
you might. No one else is going to care.
I know, but like you could. It's fine. Keep your pessimistic take. Go to sleep with that pessimistic take.
It's not a pessimistic take. It's the truth.
It is pessimistic.
It just feels to me like when things like remember like Boston Marathon bombing, or when things happen to like communities, I feel like a lot of times people like rally around.
9/11, yeah. This is one of the most devastating things to happen to the city of all time.
So that's the hope. You might be right on. I'm not arguing with you and saying you're wrong, but I'm saying that
I didn't say that too. I said it's a pessimistic take.
And I think that to Dee's point, that is why it's good advice to focus on like
I just know human psychology.
I'm
That's
giving
my
advice to solve for that problem though,
Right.
which is zero in on a couple people that you can actually help. The good news is we do have a lot of resources from a private standpoint that I think a lot of people are going to step up and help the communities. I'm very optimistic that all of these communities will get rebuilt. I'm very nervous about the regulation that the city and state put to help the rebuild process.
Right, like
That's
what is
gets me
going to
nervous.
happen? Think about the size and not only of each individual home in some cases, but like the neighborhoods that are demolished, like a nuclear bomb went off, and with the regulations and with the bandwidth. Like, how do you even, I mean, when does the Palisades start to look like the old Palisades again?
10 years.
It's going to be a long time, but you have to actually like
That's crazy.
remove a bunch of legislation.
Do you
like
think they
regulatory.
will? Do you think they'll forget? Like,
I think
kinda
that
to
if you're
Anna's
somebody
point?
like Caruso, you probably will. You know, like I think whoever comes in next,
But that's
it
2 years,
behooves
right?
them, huh?
That's 2 years, right?
It's 2 years
Yeah, I
unless
don't
they
think
get
anything's
recalled.
happening in 6 months. That's the problem. It's going to take years no matter what. But does it take 10 years or could it take 7 years? Because
I'm just
those 3 years will make a tremendous difference.
One thing I'm just curious about, and like I said, the fires are not all rich people, but a lot of really rich, really powerful people are impacted in a way that's kind of rare.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious with all of that weight and power and influence, like, that's why I feel optimistic about the future of the elections, because I feel like these are the people that donate and influence
Yeah, of course.
LA policy at a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder how they deal with it.
So my human psychology point, we all have friends that been affected, lost their homes, lost everything. And I've been texting them, and I'm going to be just, about myself. Like in 2 weeks, am I going to text them?
I think you will. I think you will. To be honest, once again,
Will
maybe
everyone else of their friends?
We don't need everyone else. We just need a few people for each family to pay attention to them. That's it.
Yeah, because I also think like when your friend is like, hey, what's the update? Oh, we're fucking the regular, you won't even believe it. They won't let us start construction. Oh, where are you living? Oh, we're still renting the place and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think it's, I don't know. Look, maybe I'm wrong.
My point is that you forget.
I know, but I think
life just
when
goes on.
I think when it's such a
it's your
disruption
community, I
to a
don't think it does.
community, I think it might be different.
And I think the ripple effects are big enough that it directly impacts everybody. If you're like trying to go rent a new place and you can't get a place anymore because everybody's vying for the small amount of apartments and stuff left.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
there was a lady in Brentwood that said she had 1,000 applicants today for one apartment. 1,000.
Right.
Think about what's happening in Pasadena, downtown LA. Like, where are all those people in Altadena going to go? They're probably going to fill Highland Park, Pasadena.
I mean, Palm Springs looked like Coachella.
I mean, and what's funny is that, a lot of LA had left. And so people were in Santa Barbara and San Diego. I was in Orange County. I had dinner with a group of friends in Laguna last night.
Yeah.
And I literally was like, someone said cheers. I'm like, nah, we shouldn't be cheersing. There's nothing to cheers about.
Right.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
So if you think about LA, a lot of neighborhoods have become pretty much, you can't live there. Right. So Palisades is
Since the fire, you mean? Yeah.
since the fire.
Yeah.
So Palisades is decimated. So
Yeah.
that community is done. Brentwood, in my opinion, as a family, I would never live there because how close it is to things that happened. Malibu, done. Even the valley, anywhere near the mountains, like Tarzana, they had evacuations.
Yeah.
Hidden Hills.
Yeah.
So what happens to LA?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think people are going to go south.
I think a ton of people leave.
I think a lot of people go south.
I think a lot of people go San Diego. Like if you're retired and you can get a very similar quality of life in other places.
Even Orange County.
I think Orange County is the biggest beneficiary of it because like
Just
in
depends on
Orange
how you look at
County,
it.
there's pockets of Orange County still that are nice and still affordable.
Yeah.
Whereas like there's no pockets in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you think about just the economic hardship of people that lost their homes, their life savings were in their homes.
Yeah.
Right.
So they lost their home. Insurance is going to dick them around for a couple of years
Right.
until they get money back. They still owe the mortgage. They can't live anywhere else in LA.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's really tough, and it's really going to change the city of LA.
Yeah. So is it Oxnard, Ventura County? Because those are obviously Santa Barbara and Montecito.
It'll be Orange County because of the schools. There's good schools in Orange County. It comes down to if you are retired and you're older, you can leave the fucking state.
Yeah,
you can go to Florida, you can go to Texas, you can go to New York, you can go wherever you want. Go to Mexico if you want. But if you have a family, it's all about your kid's school. That is it. That's the only thing any parent cares about. And the thing about it is, like, if you have to go to Orange County if you can't live in Metro LA.
I have a friend who works for Compass, and he said the demand for Newport, Laguna,
Manhattan Beach, Redondo,
all that is just.
But also San Diego is crazy too.
I'm sure.
A lot of people thinking about San Diego.
Yeah, I think like you're frustrated. And it's also comes down to, like you said, quality of life, safety, all of these things that have been an issue. Like, they're not happening.
Do you actually think this is the first time we get the LA exodus? Because COVID really didn't have the LA exodus.
They fucked LA so bad. Maybe. I think maybe.
Because COVID, we thought there was a LA exodus, but it really didn't happen. No,
so the people that live in the Palisades, people that live in Palisades and Malibu, more than likely will either end up in Santa Monica and overpay, or they'll have to go to Calabasas. They'll have to go to the Valley.
But Calabasas is a fire risk.
But they'll take it. They'll take it because they want their same life. You want your kids to go to the same school. You want to see your same friends. Community matters. People don't just want to uproot their community. That part's hard.
I remember in the 94 Northridge earthquake, a lot of kids in my class disappeared.
Yeah.
Because they were just like, the family maybe not had earthquake insurance. Who knows?
Yeah, they lost everything. And they just bounced to Vegas and like New Mexico, random. I think it matters
places.
what you do, what stage of life you're at, how old your children are. Like, if your kids are out, like they're not home,
you can go wherever. Really.
Go fuck wherever you want, right? I think if you have a young family, like we know someone who has 2 kids. When kids about to graduate high school, other daughters in college, I could see them fucking leaving.
They probably will.
They're like, fuck this.
And
that was like their dream house.
And think about the people that have been displaced. If they want to buy a new place, what's insurance going to be?
Yeah.
Right.
The other part about it is that I think like the top 5% of Californians by income pay 46% of the taxes. And so if you have like the richest people in the world who can truly live anywhere, they can go to London, they can go to New York, they can go to Miami if they want. If you start to lose some of these people, very quickly, if you start going down that list, you lose a lot of the money. And California is like running at a deficit even with these people here. Yeah. So all of a sudden, if you lose like even some, non-insignificant amount of them, we're really fucked.
My gut tells me you get new leadership in the governor's spot and the mayor's spot, you make significant tax reductions, significant regulation changes, and we're back to glory days in 5 fucking years.
We should make significant tax reductions because a lot of it is just wasted. If you actually went in and were accountable, like there's this statistic about Karen Bass where I think she took 500 million for, or maybe it was either $1 billion or 500 million for homelessness. And she only spent 500 of it, and the other 500 just sat there because she couldn't figure out what to do with it.
Right.
But then you cut the fire department by 17 million.
Right.
Just because, and it's like there's like really, really bad accountability around how the money is spent.
That was back to my earlier point that like the stakes are so high with the dollar amounts. Yeah. You can't hire people that have never managed. Your qualification should be, what kind of budget have you ran before?
Yeah.
10 billion? 1 billion?
Yeah.
You're letting the blind lead the blind here.
Yeah. So the 17 million cut, it's been fact checked. There was a $50 million side
Doesn't matter.
car.
Doesn't matter.
So whether it's matter or not, I'm not a supporter of Karen Bass.
Yeah.
But everyone's skewing her over it.
Okay.
The facts are.
We could skew her over the neighborhoods that are skewed.
No, but my point is we can't just tell lies.
I just wonder, when is this shit over? Like, I don't feel like we went through a period undeniably where like your virtue signal mattered more than your actual work.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, that is one thing that we were celebrating with the Trump thing, is it felt like that was kind of coming to an end. This, as devastating as it is, and it's way too soon to say this, but like, we're still on that momentum
Yeah.
of like, here's another example of why that type of leadership doesn't work. Like, do you think that the actual voters and the donors and the like,
I think the donor class changes, the voters, we saw federally, like they changed.
right?
We saw there was ass whooping this presidential election.
Like, it's just more of
But
this woke.
regionally, I don't know.
I think it does.
I mean, Dee's right in the sense that regionally the voting for Trump showed,
There was big boosts in all the markets.
but it's so
They weren't
annoying.
negative anywhere in LA.
They ruined LA. I think it'll come back. But remember before COVID, like 2018, we used to like celebrate and be kind of arrogant on the pod about how sick LA is.
Yeah.
And about how it's just getting better and better. And there's no city like it. I think the Lakers were really good at this something. And they fucking ruined
But
it.
it's also California as a whole. Like even San Francisco. San Francisco used to be a place where like people from around the world used to like want to come as like a vacation destination.
Yeah.
So
Who's going to vacation there?
so Gavin Newsom was on Pod Save America with John Favreau.
First of all, why?
Fair.
The fucking city is currently on fire. And you're like, let's get a podcast.
Yeah.
So he's on Pod Save America.
No one's listening to that, by the way.
And
What an idiot.
John Favreau's best friend, who we know, his house burned down in Palisades.
Was he on the pod?
No.
Oh.
And John Favreau's like, hey, you know, my best friend lost his house
Yeah.
and his 2 kids were planning to live their life there.
Right.
And the response was so bad.
What did he say?
It's just
He's
bullshit.
like, oh, we're going to have to look into, a lot of...
I don't understand how anyone supports Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, any of these people. Like, it's a joke.
I think if
and
you're
you know who I'm talking about.
But why did we keep falling for it when we had all these? You're right. But there was all these little signs. Like if crime's worse, if this is worse, if that's worse, one catastrophe is
Do
going
you want to know why? It's because people were so afraid of getting canceled in their own personal lives that they were willing to overlook the things. There's that like one line in 1984 where it's like, at a certain point, you'll stop believing what you see in front of your own eyes to like basically stay with the party line. And that's basically what happened. It's like people were so, especially in Hollywood, they're like, I'm so worried I'm not going to get my next movie that I don't care what's happening around me. I'm just going to make sure that I don't get canceled. That's like the number one thing that I'm optimizing for. It's not the quality of life. It's like how people perceive me. And I think that there was a lot of votes for a long time in LA specifically, where it was people more worried about how people viewed them.
I mean,
than like,
But isn't that every industry?
No.
I don't think so.
I think Hollywood, it's more so.
I think Hollywood's the worst.
Hollywood's always been the
you
most.
yourself are the brand.
And because you're like so reliant
But Wall
on
Street's like that.
no, but like Hollywood, you're deeply
but, like,
reliant
Hollywood
on
is like,
advertisers.
everyone's like that.
But Silicon Valley's like that.
No, but
Because
Hollywood.
everyone, so the funny thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too, Zach, in Silicon Valley, all the like super successful people realized if they're not MAGA, they're not in the inner circle. And people that I know personally that were liberal people just fell in line, Zuck included.
But he changes views. If you heard him on Rogan,
I
he
heard the
changed his
whole
view.
episode, but it's all bullshit.
I gotta make sure I
But-
save it.
No, but that's
No, but I know a lot of
changed
people-
my views. I
know a
was
lot-
the one who was very liberal and progressive on this podcast, and I changed my views.
No, but
so you can't say other people can't change their
so
views.
I know in Silicon Valley, I know this for a fact. This is not debatable. That everyone knows you have to be in the inner circle, and the inner circle now is to be MAGA.
It's not true. There's a lot of people who are still super liberal.
Yeah,
Look at
how
like
about,
Reid
Khosla?
Hoffman, Vinod Khosla.
Vinod Khosla. He's very vocal.
They're retired, basically.
Yeah, but they're
The guys that are in the hunt have to be MAGA.
I don't know. There's still a ton of super liberal people.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think everyone got in line.
I think there's like a selection bias for people who like are out and actively raising money and trying to be like they probably have to do it. But if you talk to like there was a bunch of people at Meta who are super angry that they removed tampons from the men's bathroom this week. Like,
God damn
How
it.
do you feel about that, Anand?
I have no view.
No view?
but there are
You don't want tampons in the men's bathroom?
I think that there's a selection bias to like the really powerful people in Silicon Valley feel like they have to do this. But if you're like the average worker at a FANG company, there's still a ton of people who feel really
I
strongly.
agree.
Yeah.
But the leadership can't. They have to get in line.
Yeah, I mean,
Everyone got in line.
A lot of-
Satya got in line. Tim Cook got in line. Zuck got in line.
Yeah, because
But I'll be honest,
Sundar got in line. Everyone got in line.
maybe they agree with it.
I'll be
Maybe
honest.
they did, but they didn't agree with it 6 months ago.
No, of course. Now he's the president of the United States.
I know.
That's every president.
That's my point.
No, but
There's
every
not real.
president-
It's not real beliefs.
Yeah,
is
but
my
don't you
point.
think? Let me give you an example because I heard someone have this take. I forget who it was, but I think this is totally reasonable. If you were a anti-Trump dude, even all the way up through the election, then he won. Then you start to see that he is surrounding himself with a team of very respected people that these people respect. You have to sort of like. The reasonable thing to do is to say, let me get on board with this momentum and give this a shot.
From a business standpoint, there's no question all these people should do it.
But what about for like
But
the
I'm
better
just
of
saying
America
they're not
standpoint?
actually thinking about it. They just go with the wind.
But how do you know that they don't see the moves being made with these appointments and say, you know what? This does feel right.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't donate $1 million.
Right.
but also like $1 million to a lot of these people. It's like, it's nothing. So it doesn't really like indicate that they're super believe in any of it.
I'll tell you what I don't understand is how anyone, like for instance, in LA could see what just happened under, let's say, Karen Bass and Newsom and not be open to another view.
I genuinely think that if you are outwardly supporting Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass in like the middle of this year, towards the end of this year, it's like the same thing as wearing a MAGA hat in like 2016 out here.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, I
agree.
think Karen Bass was great in October of 2025. I think people look at you like you're an insane pariah.
You should be arrested.
I've seen it. It's not the majority at all, but I'm just saying I've seen the like climate change, which like Trump is the problem. I've seen like, oh, you want to use ICE to deport immigrants, but Mexico's sending firefighters to hell. I've seen just these weird fucking spins.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, I don't think that'll be the majority feeling. But man, when you see the way people do mental gymnastics to like make it Trump's fault.
Well, some people have like made it so much of their personality that even when they're wrong, they have to
you have to identify.
You have to find a way that to like
It relates it back to.
Yeah.
Did you guys listen to Joe Rogan with Zuck?
Yes.
Will you talk about it? I just said it to listen on the way home.
I'm not going to ruin anything for you.
You can.
I fucking love him.
Who, Rogan or Mark? Or Zuckerberg. Okay, but you're saying this was so finally we got you.
Well, there's two. I enjoyed the Mel Gibson one,
Which is
he was
ridiculous. Which is ridiculous.
I like the Mel Gibson one too.
So keep in mind, I think it was Peter Thiel that was on. Did you like Peter Thiel?
His interview?
Rogan, yeah.
I think it wasn't his best interview.
No,
but
I agree. I was disappointed in that.
Fair. So I forget who was on. It was Peter Thiel and some other ones. You have never once, I don't think, said that Rogan had a good interview.
No.
You haven't said they've all been terrible, but like you've shut them off halfway through, not impressed.
Because even with Peter Thiel, like, arguably one of the most important people on earth.
Right.
You can ask him anything.
Okay, fair. But the point is,
He asked Zuck the right questions.
You finally came around.
He came around.
I think he got comfortable with Zuck, and I think Zuck being like an MMA fan.
Yes.
And the thing is that Zuck came there with a specific intention to talk about the shift in content moderation and policy.
Yeah.
Peter just came and just was there.
Bullshit.
And like, I don't think like Joe Rogan's a smart guy. I don't think that he was smart enough to understand who was sitting in front of him when Peter was talking.
Yeah, I feel like with Rogan, you can tell when he's a little intimidated or
Just out of his water.
Out of his water. And then you can tell when, like, I think Zuck being an MMA fan gives Rogan a little bit of
he's got the leverage.
Yeah.
Rogan has the leverage.
So I think with Zuckerberg, I was expecting the content moderation thing and his shift in beliefs, and that was really well articulated. He's clearly, and he joked about it, like he is way better in media today than he was 10 years ago.
Oh, nice.
And podcast is the right format for these like deep thinker types. They can't be on 60 Minutes because they're going to take the 2-minute clip, and he referenced that.
Right.
But I think the part that I enjoyed the most was Joe Rogan made a comment on how he is shifting from Apple to Android. And
That Rogan is?
Rogan is.
Yeah.
And
Wild.
security, whatever. He has his reasons why.
That's wild.
Yeah, I just, by the way, cut my first Apple Watch since it first started.
Yeah.
I got it as a Christmas gift and I put it on over the weekend. My father-in-law gave for me. Unbelievable.
You got the utility version.
I was like, what am I doing? This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right. I gotta try it again.
So the last Apple Watch I had was 2016. So it's obviously made a lot of strides.
Right.
Anyways, he brings up this Apple conversation. Zuckerberg then goes on talking about Apple, lack of innovation and blah, blah, whatever. But it was the first time that I'd ever seen Zuckerberg actually just be like, and I think it has to do with MMA, where he was like, fuck Apple, they suck, they don't do shit, blah, blah, blah. Like he was talking like, if I was ever on Joe Rogan and I'm one of the biggest companies in the world and they're like, oh, what do you think about fucking Amazon? I'm like, oh, they could suck my dick.
Yeah.
Like that is basically what Mark Zuckerberg did to Apple.
Yeah.
Where he was just like, I'm not impressed. They're not the future of compute. Like, what, you know, the way that he was talking.
No, he said it very articulate. He didn't say it the way you did.
I know, but he came out.
For him, it's his version.
No, but his version of like, and by the way, that's the clip that's going viral of him shitting on Apple. Like, because it's the first time he was not a lizard.
Yeah.
He was human.
Right.
What I think is interesting about Rogan, it's now the place where these like people who seemed like they were like unreachable come to be just like normal people. Like he's now the conduit for these people to just be like normal humans.
What was the example of that 25 years ago? I'm trying to think.
There's nothing. There's nothing. It was all
It's like the Johnny Carson show or something. But even then it was like they came in with talking points.
I don't think there's ever been anything.
You talked your book.
Drama, I know you know this because you listen to Rogan. Yeah. He says it's hour 2 to 3 where you actually get the content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what actually
Apple was at the end.
It might have been Playboy. Playboy used to do all these like really interesting interviews where people were like much more candid because they knew
Stern kind of.
Yeah, like Howard Stern.
Oh, Howard Stern's a good one.
Yeah. But it's
Playboy had some iconic interviews.
Yeah, Playboy, Rolling Stone, like back
But
in the day.
you need to do the 3-hour interview.
Correct.
That's the problem, right? Because you go to the newscaster, it's a 5-minute soundbite.
Yeah,
It does feel like something just happened in the rich guy group chat though, where they said like, yo, Rogan's the place to be like, talk to the people.
Yeah, and even Zuckerberg talk about masculine energy, and he's like, I have 3 sisters, I have 3 daughters. My whole life I've only been around women, but masculine energy is nice to have around.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I was like,
might have changed the course of history.
I've anytime Zuckerberg does any press or anything, I always watch, listen. I'm fascinated by him, and that was the first time where I was like, fuck, this is good. Even like kids were talking over 1-2 minutes. I was like, paused it. I was like, I gotta listen to it later because it was very interesting just to hear how he's changed his views and his beliefs and watching him. We've watched him like, to me, he's like LeBron.
Yeah,
I've been watching him since he was a kid.
He is
He's 19.
LeBron.
He's 40 years old.
Yeah.
Have you ever, one thing I would recommend, have you ever read the Peter Thiel emails that he sent Zuck on how he should like readjust his public image and how he should like, you should read, they're very interesting because Peter Thiel was on the board of directors of Facebook. And he basically came to the point after the last election where a lot of people were hating on Facebook because of the Hunter Biden laptop stuff. He was like, hey, you need to be like a more authentic version of yourself. Nobody trusts you. Everybody thinks you're just like this weird lizard person. You have to be.
People used to think he's a lizard.
Yeah. I mean, the way he was drinking out of that water was suspicious.
Do you know what I loved about the interview the most is because he finally was honest. He's like, I run the company. No one can vote me out.
So I'm going to pick my homies to be on the board and talk fights.
Yeah. They put Dana White on the board.
Yes.
No, we need Israel Adesanya on the board.
I agree.
I think I was honestly
So
like,
good.
I love the episode.
No, but I love
gotta
that he
listen
actually
to it.
accepted was like, I can do whatever I want.
Yes. And that's why it was the first time he did an interview or any piece of content where it was real.
Yeah.
That's why it connected. People are going to love that.
But here's what I love. Here's what I'm just hoping. I'm hoping that like, look, these people are the smartest people in the world. They also don't take unnecessary risks. They run the biggest companies in the world. They sense the tide shifting.
Yes.
That like honesty and just fucking, let's just keep it real and stop all this like signaling and stop all this corporate shit. Like it just feels like that's finally changing.
Yeah.
How do you think that affects Facebook's? Because obviously he has his view. Now you have his view broadcasted to 1 billion people, probably, in clips and
There must have been an
views.
angry couple Slack channels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in his company.
Yeah. In this company.
Hit the fucking road.
Especially because so many people think that Joe Rogan, they still are just
He's all
idiots
right.
and
Joe
think he's
Rogan's
like
all right to an average person.
Yeah.
I love Joe
100%.
Rogan. He's not all right.
I know,
that's-
but that's what so many people think. So many. Remember we talked about the dating red flags. So many. It's so popular.
You like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
It is assumed you're right.
Like so many people think he's Alex Jones. They put him in the same bucket.
Yeah.
You think so?
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. So
like
go-
Alex
go-
Jones.
When
What do you say?
I like Alex Jones.
I'm just saying
content.
They are very different though.
But when your kids start going to elementary school and you have to do the private school interview circuit, they're like, what are you into?
Don't say Joe Rogan.
If you say Joe Rogan, you're fucked.
I'm going to say it.
I want you to say it.
Honestly,
You're not getting in.
yeah. I honestly think Alex Jones is underappreciated.
I mean,
Yeah, that's a fair.
that's a ridiculous statement.
I
You got one thing right. Epstein.
No, he's got multiple things right. Epstein, 9/11.
I think
What's 9/11?
He called 9/11 3 months before it happened.
he like straight up predicted it.
Yeah.
Look,
That's how I discovered Alex Jones. I was on YouTube and I remember vividly, like I just like, to this day, 9/11 bothers me so much, more than anything that's ever happened in this country.
I'm actually, educate me, please.
Yeah.
What did he do before
He
9/11?
went on a podcast and he literally said there's going to be an attack on a major American building. Most likely it's going to be the World Trade Center and it's going to be done by a guy. And they're going to try to pin it on a guy named Osama bin Laden 3 months before. And it's like time stamped on the radio. You
In
can
June
go.
or July or whatever. It's literally, he's not exaggerating. It's insane.
The guy,
And also
the
the
guy is
frogs are gay
directionally
and
right.
But then
on a lot
Sandy
of
Hook,
things.
come
Sandy
on.
Hook, he lost his mind.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
No.
Ridiculous.
I think that he's one of these power law people where like when he's wrong, he's like extremely wrong. But when he's right, he's also extremely right.
And I don't know if he's just covering for him, but Rogan's explanation of that was that he was in the middle of like an episode.
Like a mental breakdown.
Yeah, like a binge drinking mental breakdown.
but also if you-
inexcusable.
It's
but
inexcusable.
Underappreciated is definitely.
But
a
if you
valid
like
statement.
live your life where you think everything is conspiracy theory and you're trying to find every conspiracy theory possible, you're going to get to some pretty crazy places.
Yeah, it was like Nostradamus.
Yeah.
So I was as a high school student, I never read, but I was obsessed with Nostradamus.
yeah.
And I would read all his like predictions and
All
prophecies.
you need is one.
What?
All you need is one.
And he got a couple, like two right.
Yeah.
And there, I vividly remember in high school, there was a
But
huge...
if you just say crazy things, you could always be right.
No,
Like,
but
I-
No, but like you have to actually have an instinct.
you can be like, but he's like so specific that it's like,
he also like his life is dedicated to poring over documents and CIA, anything he can to try to like triangulate what must be happening. So like if there's any weird like Pfizer, you could kind of read that, oh, they didn't actually test for transmission on the, like he spends his whole days doing that and then tries to triangulate.
I think
and
for
say,
him-
Did you see Zuck and Rogan at the end of the episode?
I didn't watch it
You didn't
yet.
watch it yet.
I listened to it.
The COVID vaccine.
Oh yeah.
Zuck was like, I'm pro-vaccine.
Yeah.
And Rogan was trying to push back. And
That's
Zuck's
good.
like,
It was a
I
good,
want him
it
to
was a
hold his
good-
ground, yeah.
That's why I liked it. It was real.
Yeah.
Zuck kept it real on the things he believed in. He stood up for. That's why I don't think it's fall in line. I think Zuck woke up and said, "Oh, why am I don't believe this shit."
I think everyone was inspired by Elon. I
because
think
Rogan was trying to push the like vaccine injuries, this, that, and Zuck actually pushed back and was like, no, I think the vaccine actually
That's why I don't
saved a
think
lot
the
of
fall in
lives.
line theory is completely not accurate for a lot of these people. I think they changed their mind.
I just want
politically.
everyone to know Zuck is pro-vaccine.
That's fair. I think
He didn't fall
Elon.
in line. That's my point. I think he changed his opinion.
Right.
I think you're having a hard time understanding that a lot of us woke. We are the new woke.
Now we're woke.
We're woke.
You're awake.
Yeah, we awoke to the fact that this is fucking nonsense. We were
agree with-
asleep.
Yeah.
We were sleeping.
Now we're woke. Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to put it.
We're the new woke.
We're the new woke. And I feel like to Zach's point, the Karen Bass supporter is the new MAGA, is the new what MAGA
Spot on.
was. Yeah.
if you're super hardcore left, like now, it looks crazy.
Yeah, you're MAGA.
It looks actually crazy.
Yeah.
But I do think my final statement, because I know we got to wrap, is I think Elon, I got to give him more credit. I think he was the inspiration for so many of these
Leaders.
to be like, oh, he keeps doing it. It keeps working. I'm going to be more
I'm going to beat myself.
myself.
And by the way, the people that don't believe it, don't fucking believe it still, right? They've chosen their path.
Does
They're
he
like-
have an assistant that's tweeting? Because he's going after prime ministers.
Elon? Look, from his book, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Oh, dude, the Pakistani grapes, so crazy.
Tell me more about that. I have a few more minutes.
He's going after.
I'll give a few more.
Okay, so basically, we can get into this. This is one thing that Elon's like really heavily focused on is there's been an insane amount of rapes in European countries, basically done by immigrants, and there are gangs of immigrants that basically come together and sort of rape local underage women. Because it's, if you think about like Sharia law, 13, 14, these are acceptable ages to be. God. And so it's like, it's like a microcosm of like, a lot of people think that sort of Sharia law is taking over Europe. And if you look in European Parliament, if you look at like local sort of like government in a lot of the UK, there's like actual people who like deeply believe in Sharia law that are now have the ability to vote on laws in the country.
That's like their Marxism problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things, there's these like grooming gangs that have become really popular in Europe. And for some reason, the powers that be within the European governments, especially in the UK, because I think my assessment of it is because so much of the constituents that are in the UK now believe these things that you actually need to kind of like support some of their views. But if you would come out as like super hardline against them, you lose a lot of votes. Wow. And so there's a lot of cover up around just like all of these. Like,
I was
really
watching
heinous,
like a Parliament video.
Yeah.
This woman,
we're losing our shit.
This woman said something like, "Oh, like very common sense stuff," and it was kind of viewed like crazy.
No, it's insane.
I don't think we were built to handle like the internet, like the amount of information.
Yeah, and I think
it's like we're getting radicalized.
So I think the problem is we've always known these things to happen, at least the powers that be. I think there is this weird,
but not the leaders in the
even
UK.
Joe Rogan said to Mark Zuckerberg, "Don't look at the comments."
Yeah.
And I think if you're a leader and a person of influence, you can't look at the comment section.
Right.
You just cannot. Ever. You used to never.
No, hell no.
Can you imagine 10 years ago, your comment section?
Can you imagine?
Fucking Rob made you.
Can you imagine if 9/11 happened today, what social media would do?
Support Osama bin Laden.
They would have supported him.
I know what they would do.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
They're still supporting him now.
And I remember
TikTok supports Osama bin Laden.
And I remember that we used to think like 10 years ago, the thing that you would hear about is people becoming radicalized online, like, and joining the Taliban. And now that's called Yale. That's called Princeton. That's called the whole, like everyone's just fucking radicalized. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it is
so you're
crazy.
telling me the leaders.
I have a crazy theory about that too.
Do you think people would root for the destruction of the World Trade Center?
Yes.
They
would celebrate it.
The way
they
that
would root
people,
for it. Yeah, I think so.
It would be the same thing as Luigi Mangione. I'm telling you, dude, it's a big, the World Trade Center would be a big Brian Thompson or whatever the guy's name is. I'm telling you right now, there's the weirdest shit going on, but that's even different from leaders in the UK supporting Sharia law. I mean, it's weird.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are we doing?
No, we've lost the
Karen Bass is a Marxist.
Yeah. It's all.
So was Kamala's dad. Maybe
we have
Kamala.
8 days.
Right.
8 days.
We just got to get through 8 more days.
What's going on? Tell us, Zach, before we leave on the inauguration.
Are you going?
I'm not going to the actual inauguration. I'll be in DC this weekend.
Nice.
Going to some events.
A lot of sex,
It's like the new Silicon Valley, dude.
I think so.
Just money and
hotel prices are up, so it's got to be something going on.
every hooker in the world is coming to DC this
think
weekend.
that's probably
Think
right.
about all the money and sex that's going to be
I
happening.
know multiple people that are angling to pay the piper to go.
St. Regis is $30,000 a night in downtown Washington, D.C. So
That's the lobby to be in.
yeah, there's probably going to be some good stuff happening
I
there.
mean, you could probably make your career in the next.
Maybe I'll go just to go see the lobby.
Pop in.
Just stay 40 miles out. You're good.
I could stay at our cousins.
Yeah,
in
stay in Maryland
Virginia.
Virginia. No, but there's a lot of different events. I'll be going to one. around Make America Healthy Again. So that'll be interesting.
Can I ask you a question, Zach?
Yeah.
Prediction. Any issues, disruptions, anything with the inauguration?
No chance.
I think that
Some
it's going to be
conspiracy theories.
it actually probably will be the safest place in
I
the
think
world.
they're going to have the goddamn Marines,
They're going to have
Army,
Delta Force.
Navy.
They're going to have every.
They have National Guard.
I've seen the conspiracy
Forget
theory
National
is
Guard.
that
They're going to have fucking every.
No, they're going to have like the tier 1 special operators at on every roof.
And, I honestly hope, just because I don't like any leaders, whether I like them or not, ever to be hurt. I want that where they speak. I know it's usually guarded with a glass.
Yeah.
They should put a fucking cyber truck up there.
Yeah.
We don't want anybody to be hurt. Either side. I do not want to see
not the
any.
one from Vegas.
No.
No,
Those
but
things
I
are
think it's going to be
blowing
good.
out.
I think, it'll be interesting.
Real quick,
conspiracy
prediction.
Yeah.
First 30 days. Give me 3 things Donald Trump you think will do in the first 30 days.
I think we get clarity into how Russia-Ukraine ends. Will be 1.
Okay, that's huge.
I think 2, we'll start to get some articulation around what he wants to do with crypto and like how it sort of integrates into just like daily American life. And then 3, I think that there's like some very, I like can't speak on them, but I think that there's some very clear indications on like FDA and like a lot of the regulations around drugs and healthcare that are going to get rolled back.
So Eric Trump is hyping up $1 million Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He's going around the world saying this.
Yeah.
What's up with Greenland? When do we own that?
I'm so excited. Greenland voted today. They said that they want to have some arrangement with America.
No,
Of
they
course.
Yeah, they did.
What other countries, Kathy's DM us, which countries we should take
We
over?
got Canada.
No, it's not.
Greenland.
You know what I really think? 51st state should be the moon. We should take control of the moon and turn it into the 51st state.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's like the number 1 for me.
I'll sign up for that. I bet you if
I'm
you live
not
in
going-
Greenland.
you hate
Moon's
too
too
far.
far.
Yeah.
You hate space.
We should own the moon though.
I bet
We
if you
should own the moon.
If China owns the moon, that's like fucked.
Whatever. We should. How hard is I could say I own the moon. I remember back in the day, they used to sell a star. You want to name a
Oh
star
my God,
after
they
someone?
did. They did. Somebody had a racket.
Yes, I bought a star.
You did? Oh my God.
We should own
I
the
was like,
moon.
yeah, I want a star. It was like $200.
Yeah, I feel like if you live in Greenland, you probably want to get down with this new momentum we got here.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I look
the
forward to
majority
going to Greenland.
vote is apparently leaning to be U.S.
Denmark hates it though.
That's sick.
Denmark. What is Denmark?
That's true. But they control Greenland.
Never heard of
Well,
them.
not anymore.
Not anymore, bitch.
Yeah.
Denmark.
Yeah. Mark.
You
You're a mark-ass bitch.
Denmark ass bitch.
You know, the thing with Trump is if he changes his delivery, I hope he does.
Yeah. I feel like he has already.
He already has.
No, but the Greenland thing it's just so obnoxious.
Why? We should
What
own
if
it.
it's, but it's not like Rosie O'Donnell's a pig. You know, like he's still got
graduated
that,
from that.
He's still got that boisterous
We should
Trump
own Greenland.
thing.
We should own Greenland.
There's no reason we shouldn't.
What if we end up owning Greenland?
We should own Canada too. Why not? They want.
them.
I'm telling
They
you.
don't even have a leader.
I gave the solution for why we do. We take over Canada.
Yeah.
We give them 2 NFL teams,
Sure.
and we let them have college football. Do you know what that gift is to that
Yeah.
52nd state?
Why
Imagine
would-
if you go to University of Greenland.
You think Pat Mack goes to Greenland?
Of course. If they got a hot team,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you give them
Opening
an
day.
ACC team because they're Atlantic. They're Atlantic. Give them an ACC
Everyone
team.
would be there. Portnoy.
I'll go.
There'd be a UFC Greenland.
Bryce James playing for University of Greenland.
Yeah.
Portnoy shit on your boy Zuck. You see
Oh,
that?
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I don't care what he
Because probably
cares.
say he's spineless or something. Yeah, whatever. I like the sport. Look, if you're gonna get in the ring, Zuck, you're now you're in the ring.
He's used to
By
it.
the way, I think Zuck would beat Portnoy's ass.
Plus, yeah, he's used to it from like the government and fucking governments all around the world. He doesn't give a shit about Dave Portnoy. That's so fun. Let me just say, if you're feeling a little, socially awkward and uptight, learn how to beat people's ass.
I'm such a, you know how like when you get really rich, you find like a cause. A lot of
Yeah.
people find the arts.
Yeah.
They find their thing. If I were to become really rich,
Yeah.
mine would be sport.
Yeah.
I think
What
sports. No, I want I think there's like an anti-sport movement for young people. Like I think people are saying, oh, my kid likes, I want everyone to play sports.
Well, the gym is white supremacist, you know, so.
Yeah, the gym is white supremacy.
But for your age, what are you talking about?
I think
he's saying that the cause he believes in for humanity, essentially,
yes,
is
I
the
agree.
power of sports.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think a
Oh, that's
lot
why,
of
you know,
parents
make
do not want
donations
their
and
kids to
stuff.
play sports. They're
What
okay.
are you talking about? Sports participation is through the roof.
No, it's not.
It is.
No, not in certain sports.
The data is like clear.
I don't know the data.
I think in women's sports it's up.
But look, it doesn't even matter.
dramatically.
It doesn't matter. Still, that makes sense that
That's
you
my
want
cause.
to add to it. That's your cause.
My cause is sports.
Yeah. I agree completely. As someone who grew up hating sports, because I thought, you know, that wasn't cool, I would like to go on record and say I was wrong. And even later in my life, I've understood the value of it.
I think it's gonna all help us all.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well,
God save the Queen.
8 more days. Pod save the Queen. Zach, thank you.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Have fun in DC. Well, can
Thank
you
you.
come back and give us an update
Yep.
on what
Yeah,
actually
we need an
know.
update.
Oh, we need an
for
update.
sure.
is on the ground?
Yeah.
I'll let you know. I'll
If
do
there's
some
any
reporting.
limited edition merch, I'd be interested.
Yeah,
I'll grab you some.
Yeah, size large.
I love it. Okay, everyone in LA, stay safe. You know, we're wishing the best, and
We gotta get through Wednesday.
everyone else who's not in LA, prove on and wrong, and care about this for 3 weeks.
3 weeks, we win. 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 more weeks.
3 more weeks.
Yeah. Okay, thank you guys. Have a good week.